Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and today I've got a nice little treat for myself. I've got a Drune Warband from Warlord Games in 2000 AD as part of their Slaine lineup. Look at that Mike McMahon art there. Yeah. Man, if anybody, well, I was going to say, we're going to get into a whole rant about comic book art in a sec, aren't we? Anyway, I was really interested in these, not only for the actual Slaine game. I don't know if I'll ever get around to playing it, but I do know that at least with games like SPQR from Warlord as well, and just all the other various skirmish games I've got, I definitely can find a use for these models. So you do get a full warband in this little box. Looks like we've got 9 figures in all, not a bad little haul. And if you do own the actual Slaine box set, or you get that later on, like I'm considering, none of these are actually repeats as far as I can tell. They are similar but different. So we've got 3 archers, it looks like 3 axemen, and then 2 or 3 champions with swords as well. So not a bad little haul. Let's take a look at what we got in the box. Alright, typical Warlord bases. Always handy and helpful. Whether I use those or some bigger ones, I'm not 100% sure yet. I probably don't want to lose these in case I do ever get around to playing. Skull swords. I wonder whose art that is. Stubborn Olok. I do like the fact that we have the... that's interesting. Oh, okay, these are stat cards. We have our skull swords and then the champions. Interesting. I thought those were the prices, but I don't see any cost. Maybe there is. I don't know the rules. Card quality seems decent. They're not too flimsy. That's always a plus. Thank you, Alicia, for packing this for me. And not letting me figure out how to open it. There we go. Pardon me, ma'am. So, these figures look and feel like they are probably Siocast, whatever cast, Stormcast, Rawcast, Hughcast. We're getting into Phantasy Star territory with those last few, but I gotta say, look at that. The intricacy of the shield work, quite nice. So here's my clue that it's Siocast, besides the fact that everything's going out of the softness. It is a resin-like feeling. Maybe the regular resin, I'm not 100% sure. It doesn't feel like the resin that I've had for like some of the other Warlord figures, as I'm getting words out of my mouth in advance, or trying to. I was looking for one. I know I had, like, recently I painted up the Germanic heroes. Now this was an older metal model originally, and then was redone in that gaming resin. I don't know if it's Siocast, but this is like the champion guy anyway. I know not everybody is the biggest fan of these bases. They are what they are. But you can see, I mean, the details seem to hold up pretty well. If the camera wants to cooperate so we can see it. I was looking at the straps on his feet. The detail like on his belt and bracelet there. The little mouthpiece that they use to breathe through. Kind of can't help but wonder how they would stack up with some of the old classic, at least classic in my opinion, Rackham Drunes. Were they the Cessair? I don't remember which faction was which anymore. Eee, this guy worries me. He's just way too far forward. But again, the actual sculpt, I am pretty impressed. I think for even a mediocre painter like me, there's enough there that give it a good light priming. You can probably have some good results in the end with stuff like contrast or just going thin. I don't know why, but this pose really reminds me of either something from Tremor or Tremanor. Not Tremor, I'm thinking Terry Moore, it's Strangers in Paradise, but getting comics and sculptors mixed up. Tremanor of Redbox Games. A very similar feel, except this is much flatter. And that horn just juts out. A little bit of flash there on the inner part of his right arm. This guy's snout thing's a little bit more prominent. All of their shields are different looking. Here we go. Here is finally somebody who needs to be glued together. One model. Out of the whole batch. That's not too bad. I know everybody doesn't enjoy painting them, but I think, or I should say building them either. Outside of the kind of inherent flatness of trying to get them in the mold, this is something that was annoying to me with some of Raging Heroes figures they were releasing prior to when they started getting everything transitioned into fully 3D STL files. You know, they are a little flat. Is that a horrible deal breaker? Not particularly. And I think especially when you look at them from a front view, they're quite nice. Let's see if we can grab some other figures. Let's see how they all stack up. Sit tight. So I clipped off a few of the little bits on the bottoms of the bases, and I figured, why don't we take a good look at how these stack up, like I said. And here we'll get obviously zoomed in a little bit. I don't know, something about these poses also just gives me such an old school vibe. Like Ralph Partha in the 80s, Grenadier type stuff. I know some of you Grognard types are probably even more old school than that, but that's what I grew up with. You'll notice, I mean, there's going to be a definite need for some paste, glue, filler, ballast, whatever. I think if you're going to use these bases that are included, if you put them on larger bases, I think it's still going to be an issue. So, something to consider. Could you hack those off? Yeah. Do I want to? Not particularly. To me, it's more trouble than it's worth. So let's see. My first thought is, what if you were going to actually use them for like Germanic tribesmen or something in a game of SPQR? Just, I mean, you've got the complete warband already, right? You can basically fill them in as whatever you wanted in terms of playing with Warlord's rules. And they are a bit taller than our poor Roman friend who's grossly outnumbered here. And even more so when they are on the larger bases. Just thinking similar size based, a plastic Fireforge peasant. Might be good. They do have a good head up on them, so I'm curious if Slaine himself is similarly sized. I mean, that's where my brain is going, fighting Romans. But, I mean, you know, we're talking Drunes. The Dark Age Irish from Victrix there. Looks like they fit in pretty well. Maybe not necessarily in the same warband. An Oathmark / Frostgrave style human. And a WizKids human. So you can see here. I mean, that's a basic problem, I think, with the Oathmark guys, is even with a larger base, they do tend to be a little bit smaller. Our plastic WizKids friend here fits in okay enough. You know, for RPG purposes, I'm sure you could find some sort of use for burly, masked, evil, menacing-looking warriors of some sort. Unfortunately, our tribal chief here is not as impressive, at least in terms of his size, maybe his strength and his skill with an axe. We'll put these Drunes in their place. Grabbing a couple Victrix models as well, just out of my own sheer curiosity. Definitely smaller, Dacian and a Germanic tribesman, as well as one of the Victrix Allied Legionnaires. So, I mean, I'm sure if you guys don't actually get around to playing the 2000 AD based game, something like this is sure to be able to fit into whatever your gaming system of fantasy would work on the table. This poor Perry Knight is about to have an unpleasant afternoon, it seems. But, you know, that's what you get for coming into battle by yourself and, you know, begging them to stop. So, what do I know? But overall, I gotta say, the sculpts are quite nice. Other than the fact that they're a little flat in terms of the depth of the models. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, it just is a thing we want to make you aware of. I gotta say, I'm quite pleased with them. Will I get some more? Possibly, if I can find the base game for a reasonable price. Considering that seems to be the only way, as of right now, to get an actual Slaine model. Personally, I'm holding out for another Lord of Misrule type model with the skull mask on, like, what was it, Cobblestone that did it? I thought it was Cobblestone, but regardless, whoever made it, I would love to see Slaine throughout the ages. So if they want to do like a Time Killer version, they want to do a King version of him on like the Dragon, if they want to do his old school Bernadelli type Conan vibe, they want to do a Clint Langley Book of Invasions, oh man, that would be sweet. But that's probably gonna ever happen. Hopefully we will see some though. So you know, at least I'll put my money where my mouth is, and hopefully the game gets enough support. Most likely in the UK, but, you know, there's a few weirdos like me who are probably going to grab some of this as well in the States. That's a nice little warband there for you. And for a quite reasonable price. So if that seems like something that might be of interest to you, we'll have a link down below to Warlord's page where you guys can take a look yourself. Maybe you'll even be lucky and your local shops will be carrying this, but I have not been that blessed so far. So, with that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!